What's up, No Load Time? Joel here. Glad to be with you guys for this really quick review of Shazam Fury of the Gods, aka Shazam 2, the sequel to the 2018 Shazam film. So let's get into it. First things first, I'm going to be, as always, non spoilers, just talk for the first 3-4 minutes, non spoilery. Then we'll get into some spoilers. When I do get into spoilers, I will throw up a graphic up here on the screen. So when you see that come up, pause the video if you haven't seen the movie yet. When you see the movie, come back to that point. You can watch the rest of this. If you have seen the movie, you can watch the whole thing through. But basically, there's something for everyone. Those who have and have not seen the movie, when the warnings go up, if you haven't, that's when you'll leave, and I'll give you the warning then. But for now, let's talk non-spoilers. So overall, Shazam 2 sequel. I gotta say, it's a got a mixed bag reaction from me. I think that it's kept in the same theme and the same feelings as you have from the first movie. That's the parts I like about it. I think the first film was a very different type of, um, you know, different type of superhero portrayal than most of the DC universe. Obviously because of Billy Batson being a kid that's in an adult's body, kind of like that, reference like to Big and other, films, right? Like seeing him have this kind of youthful approach, really just changes things from when you have Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman who are, literal adults fighting incredible battles as heroes. Shazam's a different kind of hero, and that's cool. That's fine. So with this one, you have the same thing here where they keep on that theme of, the kid hero. With this movie, I will say, I think that those of you that have seen the first movie, it's going to connect in just fine. If you haven't seen the first movie, you do need to see it before seeing this one. There's a lot of connectivity, and they don't take time to catch you up on what happened in the other one. It's a true sequel, and I do appreciate that they just did not waste time and jumped right into what the events were going on in this film. So that's an important thing to note. Overall reaction, I think the movie's too long. I gotta tell you, I gotta also say that I think the movie falls apart in the last act of the film. And overall, I just have a very mixed reaction to it, where there's a lot of it I like, a lot of it I didn't like. But you know what? I'm not too surprised. I'm one of those people who enjoyed Black Adam, which I know it's not everyone felt that way, but I thought it was pretty good, mostly because the movie, as crazy and as goofy and silly as it gets, um, it's linear. You know who your heroes, who your villains are. Motivations, and the movie doesn't take too much time trying to do too much. Where in this movie, I think it loses a little bit of its footing. There's a lot of all over the place moments, multiple storylines going on, and it's sweet that there's certain characters you're trying to give some of their spotlight and make it really a family film. And when you see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I do think that there was a better way to probably have put this together, and you can see where the writing fell apart a little bit. Uh, would I recommend you go out and watch this movie? If you liked the first Shazam movie, sure, you could definitely go out and watch it. If you didn't like the first one, this is even worse. This is not on par. The first one was definitely the one that I liked. I liked more than the sequel. But at the end of the day, is a true sequel. So if you liked the first movie, I think you'll be fine watching this one, and you gotta enjoy it for what it is. Don't go in thinking the stakes are higher. This is gonna be really cool, really amazing. It's a little bit, a little bit of a letdown, I will say, from that regards, but still in the spirit of it. I can't say much more without getting into spoilers. So, like I said, I would warn you guys. Spoiler warning is going up. So this is your warning. If you have not seen the movie, time for you to pause the video, come back later. If you have seen the movie, stick with me. Let's get into this, guys. We're going to get into spoilers. All right, so one of the first things I want to talk about is just overall the Shazam family. Like I was saying before, the non-spoilery reaction, they really try and give the spotlight spread across, not just on Billy, but across the whole family, which is not something you saw as much in the first movie. I felt like the first movie was more Freddie and Billy, Freddie helping Billy, become a hero, and the family's important, and we see how they come together at the end of the movie. But that's just kind of a build up, and they really truly are supporting characters. They still are supporting characters in this movie, but there's way more arc for the rest of them, as they do technically have the same abilities as he does, right? So like that's where I think some of it starts to get a little off, because yes, the whole family has these powers, right? The brothers and sisters, but they make it very clear Billy's not the smart one in the group. Like he's the goofy one, and there's other family members that are smarter. So coincidentally, it's like Billy's still the main hero of the movie, even though the other characters are smarter, better choices being made, and have had the powers for almost the same amount. I mean, yeah, Shazam had his old training stuff in the first film, but outside of maybe a few weeks in the first movie, they've had the powers the same amount of time, and somehow, some way, uh, you know, he's still way more powerful than everyone else, even though they're all smarter than him. I don't know. I think that they could have done more to have enhanced Billy as a hero and his motivations, which I think is what was so strong about the first movie. Like his whole motivation was his mother, right? And he finds out unfortunately how bad his mother is as a person. In this one, his motivations is like, oh, I'm gonna be turning 18. Are they gonna kick me out of the house? And I don't want to let them down, so I want to keep my family close. Sweet, personal, but not quite as impactful as maybe the other films, right? And I think the rest of the family, the same thing. Like, you know, I don't know. They have a lot of moments where they show that they are all happy to be together, and there are other moments where it's like, oh, why are we all being together? And I just felt like they took time away from what other developments they could have done to have made us look at Billy in a more heroic sense, where it just, the time that we did get didn't really, I feel like, amplify the overall story, especially leading into a sequel where we already have a pretty good foundation for the character. It's a little bizarre that you didn't take time to really use what you already have from a source material standpoint. Um, when you see the film, and if you have seen the movie, I think you'll see where I'm coming from. But that's just a brief reaction to that part of it, and then when you get to the end fight of the movie, like that's where it does start to get weird, right? Freddy gets taken. Um, you know, Billy's the only one that doesn't have his power zapped away with the staff. It's all very coincidental, and obviously it's a superhero movie. Don't take it that serious. I know. I just think that there's some parts of that they could have developed in a way that made a little more sense, and you can still use coincidence. That's fine, but do it in a way that's maybe a little more meaningful. It's just my opinions on that. That leads me to talk about the villains of the film, the daughters of Atlas, literal daughters of the god Atlas, who was obviously sentenced to carry the weight of the world right on his back, if you know the mythology around that. Menacing. They had their motivations in the beginning, pretty straightforward, pretty clear, and then you start to see where it falls apart again towards the end of the movie. So they have the staff that they retrieve, which the point of them getting the staff is they can use the staff to kind of unleash their power upon the one who's the champion of the wizard, who basically blocked them off from their magic to be able to have their abilities, and really kept them suppressed for years. And now they want to be the ones who are in control, who are the fury of the gods, as they refer to it, be the ones that are taking back the power. And seeing them come through, they're very 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 strategic in the beginning of the film with their plan and how they're going to take apart these champions. But as you watch the movie as it goes on, essentially they get what they want. They get the staff. They get the seed, the apple, right, that we see to build the new world. And they actually go and plant that tree, and they have the beasts flying around while they have their staff. And you're thinking, okay, so basically they got everything they want. I like, okay, so now how is it that it's so easy that it's all teared back apart? If it just felt like it should have been maybe a little bit more of a maybe a little bit more of a thought of, hey, let's first take out these people before we go and plant our new world here and think that we're just going to win just because we have a bunch of beasts running around. I don't know. For characters supposed to be these mythological, powerful beings, and the way it all came together, their master plan at the end, which obviously we see that one of the sisters betrays the other sister. That's, maybe that's also a little bit of a part in that they all didn't they all were on the exact same page. But again, I think this is where the movie starts to have you stretch your imagination a little bit, and that was tough for me. So without that, then you get to the death and the sacrifice of Billy. And I think when you start thinking about how he sacrificed himself and how he gets taken back to this mythological land to be buried like the gods, as they say, do it in a respectful way. Which, by the way, the wizard is not really used much in this movie. For I don't really understand why he's here. He's not giving words of wisdom. He's super grumpy, and just not helpful. And it's like, I don't know. I can see him maybe being remorseful and thinking, why did I give this guy the power? Sure, but it also kind of makes you think like, okay, so what are you going to do to actually help these characters get their stuff back? And he's just like, let me go sleep in my corner in the cave. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi, where people had their issues. I'm not saying the wizard was Luke Skywalker. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying where it's a little bit of letdown. And you would think, okay, great. You have this character here that's going to help. Let's see him contribute. And the most he does is lead Freddy to a door out, right? So yeah, that's from that standpoint. But with Billy's death means also his resurrection. So as we see a lot of times like in hero films, not everyone stays dead, and they do it in a creative way of bringing in Gal Gadot. Bad's kept secret. If you guys have seen any of the TV spots leading up to this movie, they revealed Wonder Woman was going to be in the movie just for a quick scene. But the way they brought her in, I thought was cool. I was like, well, you know what? Let's just Wonder Woman come in and literally save the day. Probably one of the coolest scenes in the movie. Because it's like you knew that from the trailer she was supposed to be coming in, but it's like, no, she's here just to resurrect this guy and walk off like a boss. Pretty cool. And it's always good to see like the original Trinity from DC show up. Technically, I was counting this off beforehand. Just a funny fact. I want to say, so with Henry Cavill, he has technically in the same kind of DC universe, he's had, I want to say, so he was in, I'll say Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, depending on which version you talk about, and Black Adam, right? So technically 4 films, one of them being cameo, but still counts, right? 4 films. And then with Ben Affleck, as Batman, you think Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, Suicide Squad, and now we know he's also in Flash. So got 4 appearances. Same thing with Wonder Woman. She's in the first Wonder Woman movie, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, and Wonder Woman 2, and then now in Flash. So they gave them all a few appearances. It's like, look, no matter what happens next in the DC universe, you got to see these characters not just in one movie, not just in 2 movies. And it's like, yeah, you maybe want the story to continue, but if you're going to have a reboot, it's nice when you can look back and see these characters at least showed up and were used a few different times. And it's always good to see that carried on. So I thought that was like a fun, moment in the film for sure. One of the brighter spots. As for post credits, so the first one is really interesting. So the first one is really teasing the Justice Society of America by also using two characters that work with the Suicide Squad, that work under Amanda Waller, characters we've seen before in a couple movies. So, yes, I thought that was a little surprising. She says, we would like to ask if you want to join the Justice, and, Shazam is like, yes, I'm in, because he's thinking, just say the Justice League, and she's like, no, the Justice Society. And that makes more sense, comic book accurate. He does join the Justice Society as well, so it's perfectly fair. Interesting, considering that we've already seen the Justice Society in Black Adam. So, and we know that they did work with Amanda Waller, right? Amanda Waller was already in the Black Adam movie. So I don't know if, how this may connect to the future, but this is where I think we can make our predictions and say, out of all the characters coming back, Shazam may be one of them. Shazam may actually be one of them. Don't write him off for not coming back for the future. So that I thought that was pretty unique. And then the next post credits, which was I don't really know if we're gonna have a payoff for it, was the Mr. Mind post credits. Dr. Silva is still in prison. Mr. Mind shows up, says, "Hey, it's been 2 years since you've been in the prison. Since you showed back up to me. You're supposed to help me get out of here. We're supposed to have a plan." And Mr. Mind's like, "Hey, I'm literally a worm trying to get around, but I've got a plan in place. You'll see what happens." So it's a little teasing that he's still out there, and I think many of us thought from after the first film, either Mr. Mind or Black Adam or both are going to be the villains of this movie. And the fact that they just went with the Atlas sisters, I'm not really sure what the decision making was on that. Why they would hold off after teasing this character in the first movie, only to tease the character again in a second post credit scene. Kind of unique. Like, are you gonna hopeful if you are gonna do anything else with Mr. Mind, if Shazam's going to continue, if this is going to be part of the future of the DC universe, there's a lot of ifs involved here, right? But what you did have in place, you have to imagine if you're purposely holding this character out all this time, and if you are going to eventually use them, you better make sure it's good. I don't want to make comparisons to the MCU because DC's different, but you think about like the teases for Thanos, right? Like the payoff for it was like, oh, Thanos is a bad dude. With Mr. Mind, you can't be having this worm go around 2 movies teasing like, I'm coming, and hopefully he's not squashed like a bug in the next movie. It has to be something that's gonna be really meaningful and go, oh wow, I see the payoff for why that they held out on using this character. I don't know, but it's always possible. We'll have to just wait and see. I'm not very optimistic that we'll see this character show back up. I won't be surprised if somehow with whatever happens in this Flash movie, the reset, as we'll see, that has something to do with Shazam, still Billy Shazam, crossing into the new DC universe, but some characters not. I think they'll be creative in how they do that. If they do that, just because he's back doesn't mean his villains are as well. So it could have just been a fun post credits. They'll never have a payoff, or it may indeed have payoff. Lots of ifs, lots of hypotheticals, but that's what we love to do: talk theories. Alrighty, so yeah, that's my thoughts on Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I hope you enjoyed this quick review here. Let me know your thoughts. Did you like Shazam! Fury of the Gods? Write your comments down below in the comment section of this video. Let me know your thoughts about it. And yeah, we'll see you guys on a future episode of No Load Time. Make sure you're subscribed, follow us on social media, and we'll see you next time.